I find it a little nonsensical to talk about the
Okay.
fact that, oh, there's nepotism and all that. It's an industry.
Hmm.
Either, I have made my uh, decision that I want to be part of art.
Hmm.
So, and for me, therefore, theater is my world. And yes, when a cinema maker gives me the hope and glimpse that I can be part of that art, then I
Hmm.
participate. So I'm
Hmm.
very clear. But most people, I think, don't go with that clarity.
Almost after a decade, or maybe over a decade, I'm seeing you virtual in this virtual mode.
Strangely, yes, yes.
Yeah, I mean that's what academics does to us. It severs our ties with the real world, and but it should not have happened to you.
Well, it in my case, I don't, I guess I don't go like academics do into their deep caves, but I do like to stay in my hut. And I like to, because for me, even the practice of theater is, a, has become over the years. In fact, maybe after you and I met last, it's sort of become like a deeply personal practice itself, theater itself, which means that it need not be show, which
Right.
means it's a research into the art,
Yes.
uh, and not in some highfalutin way, at a very simple, personal way. So
Mhm.
maybe because of that.
We were doing that when we had I mean when we had regular contact physical in physical space. That time also you were researching in your own ways about emotions and how to employ emotions and so forth.
I would say that was a very initial phase and very surface. I was still knocking on the doors, and then the doors opened at a very unexpected and beautiful juncture. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm still digging, still knocking, but there is a certain passage that opened. But you're right, that
Mhm.
was the beginning.
Ah. Now, so I wanted to start our conversation today at that juncture when I had seen you last. Dabbling in cinema while giving your heart into theater, experimenting with a lot of things in theater, carrying forward what you used to call, and I remember, I can recall, if I can recall correctly, you used to say that this is a tradition of B.B. Karant that you had witnessed at some point of time. And you were carrying forward that experimental mode which we had seen earlier in the works of B.B. Karant, and you were adding more to it by giving your theater a spiritual turn, if I'm not wrong. So, I mean, how did you manage this two different, dramatically different kind of domains? One is your kind of theater, and the other is this not so predictable, or maybe it is predictable domain of cinema, where very different kind of mathematics works, and we have seen the ugly side of that mathematics too lately. So, it would be great to hear from you.
So, personally speaking, for me, I think I am a person of theater. I'm a product of theater, and I attribute uh, all my learnings to primarily that. And at around the time when um, the time you are talking about, which was 2000 onwards, I had
Hmm.
sort of I had already worked with, of course, Baba Karant, who, yes, I do consider him even today as my inspiration. I was a child when I worked with him. And
Hmm.
I remember he really, like, I feel like I was clay and he was just molding us. And we were, the first experience I had with him was a group of us were 80. We were 80 kids, and he directed us in Tagore's a story by Tagore, Tota Kahini. And
Hmm.
he made it into a beautiful musical piece. We all sang, but it was a full grand play.
Hmm.
He did it so effortlessly. I don't remember him directing or telling us what to do, and yet we had a full play, and we did 30 shows in Ravindra Bhavan and Bhopal at that time on public demand. We had to keep increasing the number of shows, and we had many runs. So, and then I've been lucky. I call myself also a very lucky bugger because, I've happened to just come to Delhi, and then first I did a workshop with Yatrik, and immediately after that I got cast in a play which Bhaskar Bhattacharjee was directing, Beckett, and then I don't know how. Then I ran into so many theater walas in Delhi. Uh, One of the people who really influenced me at that time was Anamika Haksar, because I saw Antar
Okay.
Yatra. And
Hmm.
Anamika also, I suppose, in the line of the work that Baba Karan started, she, for me, is in that same line. The
Hmm.
search, the exploration for the human spirit, the way she directs actors is not by telling us, again, no blocking, the formalized blocking, but uh, but a way that through processes of the actor's body and breath and
Hmm.
spirit, to find, therefore, the truth. So I guess I would call myself a theater person. Film has been very mm, I don't like working in film. um, but I've been lucky even there, because my first film was with a man whose cinema is very organic. It's not like theater, but he
Hmm.
is able to create the same kind of intensity and atmosphere uh, for the entire crew, not just actors. Pan Nalin, I worked on his film Samsara, that was the first film I did.
Hmm.
And so I was spoiled for life. And so ever since I've mainly worked with him. But what happened was that around that same time when I was working with him, Meera Nair was casting for Monsoon Wedding. And
Okay.
and I, being a theater person, and I used to work with Teamwork Films,
Hmm.
which was a television company, but Teamwork is run by Sonjoy, who's a theater man himself. So I never felt I was away from theater.
Hmm.
So because Meera knows Sonjoy, I was recommended, and she had no budget, nothing, but I helped in the casting. And
Okay.
because I found with her a few really crucial characters, she gave me the credit of casting director. And
Okay.
that started a whole journey of casting um, for me. And I've done a lot of films. Mainly, I've worked as a casting director on films. It's only with Nalin that I am also on his set.
Okay.
So that I
No.
can bear. And Nalin said I love, and casting I can bear because it's with actors and it's still in the realm of me searching for the right actor for a part. But otherwise, I find film a violent. The making of film is violent. I think
Yes.
it's a new art. It's a very new art. So it's still, I would say there are only 300 films so far in the world which can be qualified as art that uplifts me personally.
Yes. Yes.
Um, but that's a lot. For a young art, that's a lot.
Mhm. Did you by any chance have a hand in the casting of Irfan as well in that Meera Nair film? Was he not in a
Names-
cameo?
Namesake? No, in
In
Monsoon Wedding, Irfan wasn't there. He was in Salam Bombay.
Salam Bombay. Yeah, I was thinking of Salam Bombay.
Yeah. No, no, I wasn't, although we knew each other at that time. And
Okay.
Irfan and I used to sort of bump into each other. And then Bhavar, a serial, used to be
Okay.
shooting at that time. So I used to coordinate with him that he could go and do a character
Mm.
in Bhavar. But
Mm.
Irfan he knew Meera because when Salam Bombay, the children were being trained,
Mm.
Irfan was one of the main people who coached those
Okay.
kids.
Oh, how
Yeah,
nice. Uh,
yeah, yeah.
it is
He
like
was
a
too tall to play one of the main roles.
yes, yes.
So, so
Uh, I mean, if I can afford not to let you evade reflecting on the current situation with this industry of entertainment industry, Bollywood, we call it Bollywood. I mean, all kind of allegations are flying left, right, and center. That's dominated by a few people. It's causing a lot of damage to younger actors. What's the scene? I mean,
look, I'm not an insider. So it would be unfair of me to comment. The only thing I can tell you is what I tell when a young actor comes to me who has no connections in the film industry. I do tell them that even though there are exceptions,
mm,
and those exceptions are because they are highly talented people, uh,
mm,
but there are also so many friends of mine who are brilliant actors, yes, who never made it.
mm,
Now, I don't know if I can, if I want to say, I find it a little nonsensical to talk about the
okay.
fact that, oh, there's nepotism and all that. It's an industry.
Mm,
Either, I have made my decision that I want to be part of art.
mm,
So, and for me, therefore, theater is my world. And yes, when a cinema maker gives me the hope and glimpse that I can be part of that art, then I
mm,
participate. So I'm
mm,
very clear. But most people, I think, don't go with that clarity. Now, if you're
mm,
going to an industry, first of all, you're going to a city like Bombay, which is a
mm,
fantastic city.
mm,
Um, it doesn't have the slug and the slowness of Delhi, the city which I have chosen to be in. You
mm,
can really get a job done in a day in Bombay.
mm,
What would take me 15 days in Delhi, I can do in one day in Bombay. It works like that. But then you have to also be prepared to
mm,
sort of uh, tell yourself that you're going into a place which is a highly commercial endeavor. There is an intention,
mm,
and there are timelines, there are deadlines, and that's how they work. Now, whatever suits their purpose,
mm.
they will do that. And at the end of the day, they have to make money.
Yes.
So I'm not justifying it. I don't agree with it. That's why I have stayed out of it. But that
Mm,
doesn't mean that we sort of throw the baby with the dishwater because, I mean, come on. Even an Esha Deol is not a success. She's such a lovely
mm.
actor. I really feel she's a good actor, but she couldn't make it. And her mother is Hema Malini. I mean, dream girl. She's the daughter of
Yeah.
Dharmendra. So then, if nepotism worked, then why did Isha Deol not succeed? So
Right.
ultimately, and then why does a Sushant Singh Rajput or a Shah Rukh Khan succeed? What makes
Yes.
it happen? You know.
Yes.
So there are no rules, and it's a very diverse industry as it is,
Mm,
uh, with very clear mandates.
mm,
So it's a it's a tough discussion, and I don't know how much I have the right, and frankly, I don't think my uncle who sits in a drawing room and says, "Oh, the film industry is poison," he has no right to talk about it. How does he know what happens? Yes,
mm.
like any other industry, by industry, the world of academics is full of other kinds of
Exactly.
politics, you know.
Exactly. Exactly.
Again, like even with the Me Too movement, everybody says, "Oh, the film industry," but isn't it everywhere? Isn't our society that? So if
Yeah.
we have to talk about it, then we must talk about everything. Just to pick on one field, I find it cruel. I
Yes.
find that cruel too.
In a way you're right. So let's try to bring you back to your area of romance, that is theater. So we saw all sorts of work emerging from your factory is the wrong word, but emerging from your center. All your experiments started showing in some of the wonderful works I mean, I remember a lot of my classmates were in awe with Prem Ki Paribhasha. But for me, the real stuff started coming from you when I more or less had given a pause to my active interest in theater, and that was your personification of Gandhi, your embodiment of Gandhi. I mean, what led you to Gandhi, the Mahatma, and your enacted discussion on Gandhi that took place on stage? I mean, that's the milestone in your journey, in your theatrical journey, no doubt about that.
You're giving me really very grand. Uh, well, I work a lot with children, and a lot with street children, with children in prisons, but also with children who are in regular schools, all levels of schools. And one of the schools where my work has really been looked after is at Bluebells School, which is a school in Delhi. And the play that you are talking about, Walking the Path, which doesn't put Gandhi on stage at all, but which sort of demystifies and goes beyond the man totally, is not interested in the man at all, and wants to. So that play came out of discussions with a peculiar child in that school. And he was sort of, he was a backbencher, and he hadn't, no teacher was really impressed. He would neither do well nor do badly, kind of not participate. And he had acted in another play of mine before this. And during a summer vacation, I don't know how we got talking about Gandhi. He had questions. He had questions about violence, anger, non-violence. And it's through those questions of his that I felt almost compelled to write a play. And I performed that play with him. So he was speaking his questions, more or less. And I was I had constructed answers. And like all theater pieces, it was a very basic script. I don't like to, when I write my scripts, I don't like to tell the director what should happen on stage. I just write the text. So when you saw it, it was a very simple enactment. We just spoke. Now, when I do it, I did it recently last year as a big gathering of children, and I added not any more lines, but there was a whole dynamic of an elephant mother and her baby, and they are telling the story and all that. So it came from that, from the curiosity of a child, truly.
Often I mean, I would not name the groups, but quite a few theatre groups based in Delhi and also elsewhere, whenever they tried doing something on Gandhi, invariably it became Gandhi versus B.R. Ambedkar. And the acrimony came in those plays, and one felt that Gandhi was not coming through. Neither Gandhi came through nor Ambedkar in those contestation activities.
You have read much more than me, but when I read the correspondence between Ambedkar and Gandhi, or even Patel and Gandhi, or Nehru and Gandhi, or Subhash Chandra Bose and Gandhi, I find the beauty that they endow to each other's station, the respect they have for each other, the agreeing to disagree on lots of points, but there is a discourse and a debate. But on the whole, it's you're dealing with a country like India. Then you're dealing with a species called human beings. There are no simple answers. There is no one perspective. And today it's so easy in hindsight to attack a Gandhi or an Ambedkar or a Patel or a Nehru. It's become like a profession for people these days. They go on. So, well, that's their choice, and they can do it so well, so wonderful. But I take inspiration from this, that there is a true discourse when we read the correspondence between them and what they have said about each other, even. I don't find any acrimony. I find a lot of, yes, there is a lot of angst, but it's channelized beautifully. And so Ambedkar has become, therefore, an inspiration as much as Gandhi. And why should it not be so?
Yeah.
I would just
Yes.
say.
So it's largely the scheme. There's a scheme of spirituality within which we see your engagement, and whichever play that you perform, it gives us engagement with variety of emotions. Uh, but in that scheme of spirituality, it also seems that certain kind of emotions are put aside. Say, for example, hatred, anger. It's the dominance of love that always made me anxious about this scheme that was at work. Very productive scheme, no doubt about that. The ground of experimentation with emotions, no doubt that it's been very productive. But then there's this predominance of love. I mean, who doesn't like to love and to be loved? But I mean, how did you manage that? How could you steer clear of the undesirable emotions, or you have not?
No, I don't think any emotion is undesirable. I don't think emotions are the problem. I think it's how we use emotions that become the problem. And for me, theater is a way to explore possibilities. It's boring for me when I see a play or a film where the storyteller is taking me to the lower depths. My life is full of lower depths.
Hmm.
I'm constantly fighting with my own demons and trying to become a better human being. So that
Hmm.
I know. And how can I claim to know that better than you or a man on the street or who's uh, struggling to make two ends meet? Do I have the right? But on the other hand, I'm also I don't like mindless entertainment. Now, what does that mean? I don't know what that means, because entertainment is entertainment. For me personally, entertainment is something that gives me options, that
Hmm.
shows me another way, that
Hmm.
uplifts me.
Hmm.
And you know, there are plays of mine, like, let's say there's a play on Rumi and Shams, Finding Shams, it's called.
Hmm.
It deals with separation and pain. But on the other hand, uh, where did it come from? Yes, it did come from love. So, and maybe you can call me. You see, when I talk about love, I don't mean the lovey-dovey, goody-goody love.
I know. I know.
I mean the deeper passions, but I
Yes.
also mean the spirit that is in all of us, and that makes us do the maddest of things, and the wildest of imaginations are possible because of that energy. So I treat it as an energy. Yes, you can charge me with that, that in my plays, in the scripts that I write, uh, there is definitely, because nothing much happens in my scripts. There's no story mostly, very few. There is usually just a dialogue.
Hmm.
And so yes, that dialogue often is exploring those possibilities which
Right.
take us there, not.
I agree. I agree. I mean, most of your scripts have enabled each of your actor to go on exploring all these emotional currents and counter currents. I have been part of some of them, and therefore, I mean, I stand testimonial. Uh, uh, One also remembers it's also in a way very useful when one has to work with younger actors. I mean, children as actors, this kind of enabling exercise, so much of love that anybody can trust the puppeteer, so to say, or this or the uh, I mean, we all used to surrender ourselves. I mean, that exercise of surrendering ourselves, precisely because we believe that this particular emotion you're trying to channelize is of supreme quality. I remember during the workshops, whenever we were given samosa at your place, you always reminded us that it was called sambosa. Yeah,
That's
and
from
then
Amir. I know it because of Amir Khusro. Yes.
yes, and then your engagement with Amir Khusro, Nizamuddin, their association, it also came through in one of your works. So, which means that there is a proper wiring that supports the idea of love. I mean, proper orientation that you.
When you say spirituality, for me, it accounts for a very basic understanding of it, a very human, and which is accessible to all. It's not
Yes.
about some system or some technique. For me, it's about, can I try to be a better human being on a daily basis? Because even that is a very considered choice. I don't think
Mm,
many human beings make that choice, that
mm,
I would like to be. And of course, my inspirations are what all of us have access to. So Kabir, his poetry, or for me, Amir Khusro, and that story of him and Hazrat Nizamuddin, or Mirabai, or I mean, this country is full of those kinds of mystical
mm,
tales. But I don't attribute my own uh, search to that. I
mm,
keep it very, I try to want to keep it very simple. I want to be grounded in this human flesh that I have
mm,
been born and given to. But through this, can I aspire? Uh, Surely we have aspired, therefore we have reached this place in the human story. But surely then we can aspire for more equality, more sustenance, more love, to use my cliche, more justice, more, I mean, break all the cliches, because we've had, yes, we've had dreamers, we've had all the messages over the years,
mm.
but
Yes.
I don't know when we'll do it, because to me, what's happening now seems no different to what was happening 100 years ago, seems no different to what was happening 2000 years ago. And we can keep saying, oh, we are this grand civilization, or we are this grand species, but bollocks, pardon my language.
No, 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 not at all. So there, no, I was coming to that actually. There was some kind of sublime ordinariness in the spiritual exercises that your actors would go through in those workshops, and that sublime ordinariness stayed back even after the performances got over. So I am one of those recipient of. I'm the lucky one who had that sense. I mean, even after uh, we were done with whatever we were performing, I felt that there was a lingering effect of that sublime ordinary exercise in which one
Well,
came closer to oneself. Hmm.
when we were working, I think we were still, I was still, I hadn't yet reached what I am now exploring. Because one thing is for us, the performers, to sort of reach that sublime. But as Shaw, I think, said, I'm not sure who said, that, I shouldn't have tears in my eyes. The audience should have tears in their eyes. So
Yes, yes.
even though I acknowledge that even at that time, yes, the audience would get a sense of that, but I have now furthered my, thanks to somebody who I've been working with, that how do you, it's not about me just feeling so blissful. How
Hmm.
do I, how am I able to create certain, uh, not create even, because that's too big a word, but how am I able to continue to search while including the
Right,
audience, you
right.
know so that now has become my major work. So actually now, all the wonderful things that we used to do then, when you worked with me, I do less. I've sort of come down to, it's become now even simpler and more basic.
Okay.
There are simpler elements to the work now, and I'm very lucky that I was given this. So yeah.
I was so this actually preempts my next query that I have. Um, One was also interested in knowing as to how, in this current situation, which is the situation of precarity all around us, and wanton death, something which nobody would have been interested in. I remember we used to also discuss death a lot.
Your play, your beautiful play, which I'd never forget.
So, and we always recalled how cultural arrangement around something which may be otherwise so disastrous, traumatic to individual experience, but because of the cultural arrangement around it, humans begin to negotiate or establish some relation with death. But that kind of possibility might not be there today or maybe tomorrow, even after the virus becomes weak. This sense of precarity has penetrated our psyche so deeply that uh, death would be probably only bad news. I mean, one hears that bad news and one just laments about it. Death would not be something about which poets would write any composition in that, in that sense of, love and romance. How do you negotiate with this situation with your?
Look, uh, I don't want to belittle or in any way lessen the whatever's going around. But for me, the greater tragedies have not. For me, the greater tragedy really has been how we have, as a society in India at least, um treated fellow human beings. That for me is the bigger tragedy. I don't consider the pandemic. We've human beings have dealt with pandemics before. Death has been as paramount
Yes.
during war and pandemic before. We've faced. Our generation has seen not seen as much as our grandparents did. They saw war after war. They saw pandemics. So they saw the nuclear holocaust. So we've only seen the tsunami and now this. Okay. So every generation has its own share of exposure to this one ultimate reality, which, yes, in my poetic way, I always say that, hey, for me, when death is approaching, life is approaching me, isn't it? I mean, isn't it the given cycle? I mean, we know that. We all know that. And not just the spiritualists, but even the cynics. The one thing we know is that, okay, I have to die.
Yes.
you know and my colleague in the theater, Manav, he I think 2 years ago he started writing a book when his father had passed over. I recently heard he said somewhere that as I was writing my book on death, dealing with the death of my father, I realized that my book was becoming more and more about life.
Right.
So I feel sometimes human beings, maybe because we have been gifted by nature with this amazing imagination and aspiration, so we are hurtling on uh, this path of development. But somewhere I feel nature steps in. I don't know if this was a nature made pandemic, but it is certainly a reminder to us that, okay, you know you're not the only ones. And so for me, I see it as a great opportunity. I see that
Okay.
uh, opportunity, and I don't mean it in my usual hopeful, romantic way. uh,
Uh-huh.
I really have, and and want to say this, that, what is the society that we have really generated for ourselves? Uh, okay, earlier systems of monarchies or oligarchies or whatever they were, but post-industrial revolution, and when after the Russian Revolution or the French revolutions, we those were early days. Today we have hindsight,
Yes.
and yet we continue to operate the way we have operated for, I would say, dare say, 2000 years. We are no different from caveman, actually. Really. So, might is right, and whoever has the carrots will then be the king today.
Yeah.
And it's crass to me. It's really crass, and I feel it's an opportunity for us. I don't know about society, but I'm treating it as an opportunity for me as a human being, personally, to at least list out or envision or imagine, okay, how can I truly uh, start in my own simple way at my center, for instance. How can I actually create a space? Because when I see the rickshawala, I find it obnoxious that when I was a child, at least the rickshawala could go and see a movie uh, and forget all his ills for 25 paise or 10 paisa. Today, a rickshawala, okay, you are saying no, now it's all available on the mobile. He doesn't have a smartphone. He can't afford the multiplex. Where does the rickshawala go for relief? Those are my basic questions. I'm no economist. I'm not an educationist. I have no clue how to answer those questions of hunger and poverty. Those are very difficult. On the other hand, I do not accept that anyone should die of hunger.
Right.
So I am treating this time for me as a reminder and an opportunity for me to figure out what I want to do about it, because I can't expect everybody else or the institutions that are already failing us. I don't expect them to do anything. I don't want them to, perhaps, maybe. I don't know. But uh, even that will be inspired if I do something about it. So what can I do about it? So I keep doing whatever I can in one way, silly way.
So you bring your experiment with Gandhi in this time as well by saying this. I mean, by suggesting that as an individual, what I can do. I mean, that's also one of the premises that Gandhi gave us.
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah.
And but then still, I mean, there's so many challenges coming from outside which might stop you from even doing that basic, even trying out something with yourself or not letting you be. Do you think that possibility exists? No.
It does, but yeah,
Yeah,
I feel that's an indulgence. I can always blame, oh, there's no money in theater, or I don't know what to do, or I'm just sitting here, what can I do? I mean, as simple as that, as banal as that, or as magnificent as, okay, the fact that uh, I don't know. I mean, I guess one has to make that choice that I would like to, and I'm not, when I'm talking about this as an opportunity, I am not talking about it in some grand revolution way. I am not.
I understand.
I am talking about it really in the simplest of terms, in
Hmm.
my own silly, feeble way. Um, so nothing stops me from making that choice, no matter what my circumstances. And the human spirit is uh, much maligned as it is, but it is what it is, and it is a great source of inspiration as well to us, because it's one little Mother Teresa working in some corner, or Saint Francis of Assisi working in another corner, or Hazrat Nizamuddin. Sultan after sultan came and went, and pandemics came and went. Hazrat Nizamuddin quietly kept making his khichdi and feeding the poor mainly, and in the
Yes,
meantime
yes.
sent I don't know, 798 sheikhs all over the country, to which we still owe him. Sufism still has its plants and trees growing in this country, thanks to him.
Wonderful.
So he was working
Yeah.
quietly in his own space. He wasn't worried about oppositions. All the sultans, many sultans tried to stop his work, but he kept doing his little thing.
Such a wonderful thing you've said. I mean, it reaffirms my own understanding, which is obviously always shaky. I mean, I'm like that doubting Thomas. To begin with,
The best thing we can gift ourselves is to be a skeptic, because if we just accept everything blindly, we'll be nowhere. So it's better to be that than be a bhakt who is blind.
So nice. So what's the plan now? I mean, what are you planning to do with kids in your next session, whenever that next session happens?
Not sure. Someone just recently sent me a lovely story from Tolstoy. So I don't know. I haven't thought of what I'll be doing next. The one thing that is ongoing even now is that some of the kids I work with, they sort of connect like this online, and we are at least able to do some work on text, on how to find the truth in a speech, or be able to, how do you just say a line as yourself? That's the most difficult thing in a way. So,
but in the absence of the physical space, which might be a reality for a while,
yeah.
How do we imagine?
Again, I think Shaw had said somewhere that he wasn't in a hurry. I don't know what episode it was, but there were some years when he couldn't do his theater, and he said, "I'm not going to be in a hurry to just rush into." And we mustn't forget that Shakespeare wrote his best works during a time like this, when all activity had stopped. I think it was some pandemic, and he was writing away. So I'm in no hurry to answer that question. I don't want to answer. There are a lot of people who are sort of calling and saying, "Can we do this and can we do that?" But I'm a stickler for aesthetics and quality. So unless I have a technology that will provide me with the absolute answers, I'm not going to just give in. I'll wait. I'll wait for a time when you can come to my center and see a play.
So wonderful talking to you after a long time.
Thank you so much.